What took place there? I walked to a comfortable table in the back of my country bar and grill. I ordered a sandwich, fries, and a nice beer right away. As I settled into my chair, I looked at the TV screen. The bar's TV was set to the PBS channel, where a conversation about country music was taking place. They explored the lives of the renowned stars, some of whom were still alive and many of whom had died. As they described the tribulations and problems that these remarkable people, the majority of whom come from disadvantaged backgrounds, had to endure, it was a fairly depressing picture. As I was finishing my dinner, I happened to look up and see my best friend, Matt walking with Jenny. I felt a great deal of sadness since I thought Jenny was my girlfriend. Tonight, I had asked her out. However, she told me that she had already arranged to spend the evening with a few friends. She did, however, reassure me that we might go out tomorrow. I thought Jenny and I were exclusive because we had been together for a good 6 months. We were together almost every weekend, and I could already feel my feelings for her growing. We had even considered getting engaged, but we decided to wait a few more months when she showed similar feelings for me. I believed our relationship was solid, and there was no rush. Someone walked over to the jukebox and started playing the song Crazy as the TV show was coming to a close. My mind started to wander as I found myself paying close attention to the words. I was moved by the song's lyrics as soon as the second verse began to play. No matter how much you love me, you will eventually leave me for someone else. I began to question whether Matt was the new acquaintance in her life. The saddest part was that Matt knew I was in love with this girl, which caused me to question the purpose of our fraternal code. I kept listening to the music in spite of these feelings, admiring the way this adorable pair acted as though they would always be in love. I got up from my table and walked over to Jenny and Matt. When they looked at me, I became enraged and scolded this adorable couple. Shut your mouths. Matt, my friend. I swear to God that one of us will undoubtedly require medical assistance if I ever see your arrogant face again. I didn't thought you were such a person, Jenny. Saying that it's over between us isn't worth it, in my opinion. I left the bar right away after slamming my palm against their table. My phone kept ringing all day long as Jenny frantically tried to get through to me, but I was not interested in talking to her. The phone rang again later, but it was Matt this time. I reluctantly chose to respond. Matt, what do you need? I yelled into the telephone. I'm sorry, Charlie. Jenny didn't seem serious to me. I invited her to supper after we struck up a conversation at work. She agreed, Charlie, which surprised me. My former pal was defending himself. Matt, you're a damned fool. She was my girlfriend, as you were aware. You didn't stop even though you knew we were dating. Matt, how many times have you spent time with her? I yelled into the telephone. A great deal. Only a couple of times. I promise you, Charlie. The son continued to make excuses. He was dishonest. Matt, you lied to me. You've spent a lot of time with her. I'll track you down and put 3 things in your arrogant face. Furious, I yelled. I've only dated her 3 times, Charlie, my friend. It appears that we are in love. That's the reality. Keep your mouth shut. I cut him off. You. How about Sylvia? As it happens, you cheated on her. That was not how she should have been treated. I was very clear with Matt that I didn't intend to see him again. I also informed him that he was now in charge of Ginny. I suddenly ended the call out of frustration. Matt's girlfriend was Sylvia. Additionally, the 3 of them shared a factory. Our paths met for a reason, but that's a story for another day. The phone rang again, and it was Jenny on the other end. I thought it would be best to address the matter directly, so I reluctantly answered. Jenny, what do you want? I inquired. She apologized profusely and claimed that although she eventually consented to go once after Matt's relentless approach, it meant nothing to her. I became irate and cut her off. Stop lying, Jenny. Are you not sick of it? I spoke with Matt, and he told me that you were with him at least 3 times throughout our talk. The number might be larger than that, I suspected. Money seems to have been a major factor in this case. I also wish you luck in your endeavor. You both seem to be motivated by a great desire for financial gain. In that sense, you two might be a wonderful match. Personally, I don't want to be involved with you at all. Sylvia is the only person for whom I have sympathy. She thought Matt and you were both her buddies. We'll stop talking to you now, so please stay away from me. I want to share a little bit about me and my history with you. I was raised in Kentucky, where I lived with 8 of my siblings. Being the oldest of them, I became fully involved in high school football. I was an offensive lineman who weighed 260 pounds and stood 6 feet 3 inches tall. Even though I was really passionate about the sport, my parents couldn't afford to pay for my college degree. I therefore jumped at the chance to attend a college in Ohio and receive a scholarship. I was drawn to mechanical engineering because it gave me a way to express my passion for practical work. Even if I was a little shy by nature, my relationships with women were always characterized by the highest respect, which was much impacted by my relationship with my sisters. I learned from my mother to treat girls with the same decency and consideration that I would expect from my own sisters. At that point, Matt and I were close friends. Despite his lack of physicality for athletics, Matt was amiable and intelligent. Points of reference: Matt told me about his family's riches and the potential for future inheritance. While I was concentrating on my football interests, he was pursuing a degree in business management. We spent a lot of time together despite our different personalities, going to different parties where Matt demonstrated his leadership abilities and girl seduction prowess. I tended to take on a more subdued role in these social situations, watching and thinking. Matt was the reason I had girls. As someone who was too bashful to approach girls, Matt's charm made all the difference for the poet. He deserves praise for motivating me to venture outside my comfort zone. After graduating, I decided to stay in Ohio and found a rewarding position at Ford Motor Company as a mechanical engineer. I treated myself to a late-model pickup truck and a comfortable apartment near the plant thanks to the high salary. In order to give my parents the much-needed help they needed, I took care of my family and carefully saved a portion of my weekly income to send them $500 per month. As a devoted coal miner, my father had always created a warm and caring home atmosphere. Matt was able to find work at a warehouse that was close to the Ford factory. Finding out that he was one of our prestigious suppliers was unexpected. He eventually rose to the prestigious post of warehouse manager because to his commitment and proficiency. We frequently get together on the weekends. On one of our excursions, Matt disclosed that he had discovered love in the workplace. He had fallen for Sylvia, a wonderful person in charge of inventory control. To be honest, I couldn't help but fall in love with his girlfriend when he introduced us. She just couldn't be compared. The unwritten rule of our fraternity, however, was that Matt and I were not required to compete for ladies. Despite the strong temptation, I made the decision that our friendship comes first. I got the chance to get to know a couple women while I was employed at the facility. Even though our interactions were entirely platonic, I found it difficult to keep up a casual acquaintance with Sylvia. Her sincere warmth and friendliness always made me feel very strongly. Unfortunately, because I couldn't remain composed around Sylvia, these emotions kept me from meeting Matt. I once received an invitation from Sylvia to attend their factory's Christmas party. I was thrilled to receive this invitation and made the decision that I should absolutely go, especially because they were one of our esteemed suppliers. I got to know Jenny, a lovely woman, at this gathering. In contrast to Sylvia's more traditional manner, she was a devilishly beautiful lady, and her sensual curves only served to highlight her amazing body. Jenny's charm was enhanced by her flirty energy. I told her what I do for a living after she revealed that she works as a secretary for one of the bosses. All night long, we danced and enjoyed ourselves with her. It was simply amazing, and we were happy that this connection had developed between us. We agreed to celebrate the new year with Ben and Sylvia and made plans to see each other again. Sylvia said she was happy for me, or so she said, but her words were not genuine. I took Jenny back to my place on that memorable evening, where we had a passionate and private encounter. Jenny was rather shocked to hear that I live in such a small flat when we first woke up. I clarified that I prioritized sending money home to support my family because my present employment was still relatively new. I assured her that although I'm not very wealthy right now, there would come a day when I won't have to worry about money. She then expressed curiosity about Matt's family's illustrious past. Rumor has it that Matt's family is quite wealthy. Is it accurate? Are you aware? You are his best friend, after all, she said. Actually, that isn't accurate. I responded to her by saying that his parents only cover his tuition. Even so, I had my suspicions. In spite of this, we started spending practically every weekend together as our love grew stronger. She began to show her sincere love for me as feelings began to grow between us. We also had a lot of amazing events together, but the most unforgettable were our private moments together, which were absolutely remarkable. I promised her that we could have a happy life together, even though she was constantly preoccupied with material belongings. But every time we went on double dates with Ben and Sylvia, I couldn't get rid of a weird feeling. We appeared to be connected or tense in an inexplicable way, but I was unable to describe the sensation precisely. I had been seeing Jenny for 6 months at this point. As Jenny indicated, we had already started talking about our future together, including the prospect of getting engaged. However, we both felt that we had enough time to think things over thoroughly before taking such a big move. While at the county fair, I happened onto a jewelry counter that had reasonably priced items. I bought Jenny a friendship ring as a token of our bond during an emotional outburst. Until she felt ready for an engagement, I told her the friendship ring represented her belonging to me. As she put the ring on her finger, a smile spread across her face. I should now disclose that I have been going to the gym to work out hard, at least 3 days a week after work. I was able to reduce my weight to a respectable 230 pounds, and I was reasonably self-assured at the time. But when I saw them walking inside the country bar and grill together, everything changed drastically. It was a gut punch to watch my best buddy and girlfriend share a passionate kiss at the restaurant. Seeing that was an extremely horrible experience. And in light of what I've already spoken with you, I've decided to cut off any communication with them. Even though I was upset with them, I felt sad for Sylvia. I'm so sorry, Charlie, sweetheart. She said, I heard what happened with you and Jenny. She said that she thought Jenny would be unfaithful, but not to Matt. Sylvia told me that she had frequently witnessed Jenny having lunch with her boss, Brand, but she was hesitant to share this information with me because she was unsure of her suspicion and didn't want to offend me. But in the end, she learned the truth about Jenny and Matt. I cut off all contact with him as soon as I learned the truth. I broke off all contact with both of them. I try to occupy myself to distract from the pain, but it's been difficult to watch their interactions at work, she said. Sylvia called out of the blue, and I was grateful for her care. She has always been one of my best friends. She said, Charlie, perhaps we'll cross paths someday. Yes, Sylvia, that's a really good idea. We ended our conversation, and I wasn't sure if talking to her had made me feel happy or more depressed. A few weeks later, I happened to run across Sylvia one evening at the grocery store. It's nice to see you, Charlie. She gave me a warm welcome and asked how I was doing. I asked her the same question. It's all right, she smiled in response. How about you? Have you entered the dating scene again? I asked. Sylvia answered, her smile growing. In fact, I've been invited out a few of times, but I've been declining. I've had my eye on someone special, and I don't want to blow my chances if he gets in touch. When I understood what she was expressing, my heart skipped a beat. I apologize. I admitted that I was genuinely going to ask if you wanted to go out. Yes, out with you, Sylvia said excitedly, her eyes brightening. After all, I was waiting for your call and meant you. Let's complete the specifics. Where and when are you interested in going? Eager to organize our trip, Sylvia inquired. I want to make sure I dress appropriately. What about this Saturday? I propose that we go to my favorite country bar and grill. Sylvia laughed and said, that sounds ideal. I'll have my boots on and be prepared. We said our goodbyes, and I said I would come get her at 6. I was thrilled to see Sylvia wearing boots, a cowboy hat, a chic vest, and Western-style trousers when I got to her house. She looked stunning. She jumped in my truck as soon as I opened the door, grinning with happiness. A country western band and soloist would perform on Saturdays. In addition to securing a booth, we had a few cool drinks. We had plenty of time to talk because the band was supposed to start in an hour. Much to my astonishment, I learned that she was born and reared in the nearby county in Kentucky. Following her graduation from Kentucky, she looked for work and eventually ended herself at the Ohio Supply Company. We ordered various delectable things because we were hungry. She selected a mouth-watering Reuben sandwich, and I went for the double bacon cheeseburger with crispy fries on the side, which we chose to have with the fries. Being with her was enjoyable, and I was glad of the opportunity. She asked me if this was the pub where I saw Matt and Jen betrayed. I confirmed her suspicions and told her that I was not going to leave my favorite watering spot because of two unfaithful people. She understood my sentiment and smiled gently in response. We eagerly left our seats as soon as the musical group started performing. We were all set to dance until we passed out. Couples were encouraged to sway in one another's arms as the band started out with 2 slow tunes. They played the timeless classics that everyone wanted to hear, constantly satisfying the needs of the audience. We chose to ignore this one when they switched to a livelier song. I gently told Sylvia that I preferred to watch the elegance and beauty of the women on the dance floor rather than participate in fast-paced dances. The band then played a few songs by the great Roy Orbison, which delighted us. I simply couldn't get enough of this music. The band then played a few of the legendary Loretta Lynn tunes to charm us. Sylvia and I delighted in the captivating rhythms as we moved elegantly to the mellow music. The announcer abruptly called the women on the dance floor for a passionate dance. A few courageous gentlemen and eager women eagerly joined the colorful gathering. I went to Sylvia and teasingly inquired, "Aren't you going to line dance?" With a cheeky smile. "Oh, you just want to admire my impressive moves from afar," she replied, her face beaming. She got up from her chair and merged herself with the other female dancers. I couldn't take my eyes off Sylvia when the dancing started. I smiled broadly as she looked directly into my eyes and wiggled her booty with confidence. She came up to me with a bright smile when the song was over, and I leaned in to give her a quick kiss. But I immediately withdrew, regretting my impetuous behavior. I regret apologizing. I apologized with a hint of regret in my voice, but she responded with assurance. "I'm not sorry." Leaning in to give me another kiss, she asserted. We kept dancing and enjoying a few beers together as we reveled in the night. Time passed far too fast, and when the band played their last song, I grabbed Sylvia and we swayed on the dance floor. As the song came to an end, I bent over and kissed her. I went home with Sylvia. I jumped at the chance to enthusiastically ask her out the next Saturday, suggesting that we go to Centerpoint, a famous amusement park in Ohio. She accepted my invitation with a big smile, and we shared a long kiss as we said goodnight. I was careful not to put any pressure on her during our first date. I decided to check with Sylvia on Friday to confirm our set plans because the entire week at work had been fantastic. She said that although she had heard about the park, she had never visited it. She and I talked while we drove to the park on Saturday morning after I picked her up. I inquired as to whether she had told Jenna or Matt that we were dating. "I haven't spoken to either of them," she said. We had a great day riding the exhilarating roller coasters and other rides at the amusement park. Before returning home for dinner, we also enjoyed watching a number of fascinating shows. We made the decision to eat at Texas Roadhouse. By the time we got home, we were completely exhausted. Joan, Sylvia's roommate, was a nice woman in her 50s who worked in retail. Having a roommate like Joan who showed her maternal affection was something Sylvia said she was extremely thankful for and valued. I told Sylvia that I wanted to see her the next week but that I would be out of town for the weekend. In response, she advised me to phone her when I arrived. I told her how much I loved her by giving her a tight hug and kissing her. She responded by acknowledging that she had always found me attractive and liked me. I contacted her as soon as I got home because I really wanted to see her again. Explaining that my boss was throwing an anniversary celebration for himself and his wife at the Hilton Hotel, I suggested that we go to a lavish dinner party. I was aware that there would be a lot of alcohol consumed that evening. I then said that I had reserved a room especially for this event. I assured her that if she declined this offer, I would understand. I'd be delighted to have you around, Charlie, of course. Furthermore, I would want to clarify that we do not require a room with 2 beds. For us, 1 will be sufficient. Charlie, I just want you to know how much I adore you. The only thing I ask is that you not cheat on me, Charlie. I swear never to hurt you, and I'll shield you from anyone who would do so. With a smile on her face, she told me, "Is there any way we could use your car instead, Sylvia? I would rather not drive my truck to the expensive function." Charlie, of course. I'll let Joan know that I won't be going home that evening, and we can take my car. We drove her car to the event after I dropped off my truck at her house. We thought it would be a good idea to get ready at the hotel as we had made the decision to arrive early. Sylvia told me she wanted to get a new job during our talk. She claimed that being near Matt and Jen all the time made her uneasy. She also added that she had heard a rumor that Jen might be expecting a child. I chose a tuxedo and got dressed in the restroom as we got ready for the celebration. I was mesmerized by Sylvia's beauty as soon as I walked into the bedroom. Her hair fell to her shoulders, and her shape was nicely enhanced by her form-fitting blue dress. She looked stunning, radiating a combination of elegance and sensuality. It was impossible for me not to admire her. I said, "You look so beautiful," briefly putting the party out of my mind. "Well, I didn't go through all this trouble only to take it all off again," Sylvia retorted in jest. She also flashed her endearing smile at the same moment. My boss and his wife gave us a warm welcome as we arrived at the celebration. He welcomed us and thanked us for coming, and introduced us to his wife. I couldn't help but notice my boss's persistent eye contact with Sylvia as we were leaving. The room was crowded with familiar acquaintances, and I used the occasion to introduce everyone to Sylvia. She felt valued because of the many compliments she received. After grabbing a few beers, we found a seat where the main dish was being served with a selection of appetizers. Over the course of the evening, Sylvia noticed a few women she knew well because she was in charge of inventory management and interacted with them on a business basis. I excused myself and spoke with the HR head, Mary, because I was curious to catch up with them. "Mary, are there any vacancies in the supply chain or inventory control departments right now?" I inquired. "In actuality, there is a chance available. I have been tasked with finding a suitable replacement for Janice, who will be retiring next month. Do you have a candidate in mind for the job? Actually, you've met my girlfriend, Sylvia, and she's actively looking for a new career. She is currently employed in inventory control and loves what she does," I said, "but she feels ready for a change." I'm glad to respond to her. "Would you kindly make plans for her to see me on Monday? An interview with her would be a pleasure for me." She winked at me as she remarked, "And you're a smart guy, finding yourself a beauty. Without a doubt, Mary, you have my sincere gratitude." In return, she laughed out and remarked to me, "While Sylvia danced with their husbands, I got to dance with a few of the staff members' wives." However, Sylvia and I danced together most of the time. With choices like roast beef, chicken, or shrimp and all the sides, our supper was superb. We said goodnight to our host and headed back to our room after having a couple more beers. "I want to make sure you're at ease in this circumstance, Sylvia. I don't want you to believe that I'm taking advantage of you. Charlie, you're talking a lot today. Isn't it time to put words into action? We need to make love now." In response, she made a joke. Together, we carefully hung up her dress after I helped her take it off. We hung up my tuxedo as well. We then carefully lowered the blankets, and I switched off the lights to make it comfortable for us to embrace and fall asleep. She said, "I love you, Charlie," as her final words to me. I awoke the following morning to the pleasant scent of freshly prepared coffee. Sylvia had already showered, dressed, and graciously made us each a cup of coffee. "Charlie, good morning. I hope you slept well last night." She gave me a kind greeting. "That was the best breakfast I've had in a long time," I said contentedly. I had a quick shower, enjoyed my coffee, and then went down to the dining room to have a nice breakfast with Sylvia. During our journey, I couldn't help but observe the warm smiles of my coworkers. I told Sylvia over dinner that it seemed like we were now being acknowledged as a couple. On her way out, Mary, our HR representative, came by our table. "See you on Monday," she smiled as she said goodbye to Sylvia. Sylvia asked me, "What was that about?" with a perplexed expression. "I totally forgot to tell you, Mary darling. On Monday, you have an interview." I grinned. "I believe you stated that you were thinking about shifting careers." I inquired in an attempt to get confirmation. Sylvia replied, "Charlie, I can't believe this is happening," her eyes brimming with tears. "There are no words to describe how much I love you. We carried on conversing as we drove home. I don't want to rush things, but I wanted to inform you, Sylvia, that I will be visiting my parents in Kentucky in 2 weeks. If you could join me, that would be an honor. On Friday evening, I intend to depart, and on Sunday, I will return. It would be a great idea for you to visit your parents as well. Although I am aware that my parents are a little outdated, I would still want for you to accompany me. I clarified that we might not be able to share a room, but I promised her that everything would be all right. As we started our drive to Kentucky, Sylvia informed me of the most recent rumor. Have you heard that next month, Matt and Jen are getting married? She told me. Jen seems to think she's marrying into a wealthy family. She is unaware, however, that Matt's parents are the ones who are wealthy. Matt's parents provide the majority of the money for his extravagant lifestyle. I gave Sylvia an explanation. My parents' house was a magnificent old farmhouse with lots of bedrooms and baths when we first arrived. My siblings, who were still living there, came out to greet us with great excitement, followed by our parents. I gave each member of the family a hearty embrace. I was relieved to see my folks again. After we introduced Sylvia to my family, they gave her hugs and loving embraces. Time appeared to pass invisibly as we engaged in interesting conversation. I had a sneaking suspicion that my family would love Sylvia as much as I did. As we conversed, Sylvia's gaze was drawn to the pictures hanging on our walls. She became obsessed with one of them, a photo of me wearing my football outfit. Concern washed over me as I saw tears forming in her eyes. Are you okay, Sylvia? What is bothering you? I asked, curious to know where her feelings were coming from. She started to narrate a reminiscence in a tremulous voice. When you were playing football, do you recall the away game in Grayling? I witnessed 2 males trying to drag a female wearing a yellow sweater into the tunnel with them after the game as you were passing through it. One of them dropped to the ground when you struck him. You simply pushed the second one, and he fell as well. You warned them in a threatening tone that they would undoubtedly wind up in the hospital if you saw them with this girl again. You went to the locker room after turning around. How did you learn about it? I asked. After all, I didn't tell anyone about this case. I was shocked by her response. I was the girl you defended that day, Charlie. I was never able to get a look at her face. The only thing printed on the back of your clothing is the number 67. I tried to find you, but I couldn't find you. Right then, all I could learn was your name, Charlie. These 2 scoundrels showed up out of nowhere when I was waiting for my pal. I was seized and pulled into the tunnel. I knew right away what they were trying to do to me, but I was too weak to resist. But then, motivated by her appreciation, you came like a guardian angel and protected me from these thugs. She gave me a gentle kiss. She said that from the first time I saw you, there was something about you that seemed oddly familiar. The only good thing I can say about Matt is that he introduced me to you. My mother set up a cozy bed for Sylvia and told me that there was an extra bed in the basement where I could sleep. Around 1 in the morning, Sylvia made her presence known, and I was suddenly accompanied in the silence of the night. We had a private, delicate moment of love together. It was a little difficult because of those conditions before she went back to her own sleeping quarters. We went to visit Sylvia's relatives the next Saturday. I was surprised that she had never mentioned how wealthy her parents were. I was astounded by the grandeur and elegance of her parents' home when we got there. In addition, Sylvia had 2 younger sisters, both of whom were exceptionally beautiful. Sylvia herself introduced me to her younger sisters, who were a couple of years her junior. She introduced me as her boyfriend with pride. During our talk, I heard Sandy, one of her sisters, calling me a hunk and congratulating me. We went inside and started having deep conversations. Sylvia's father, Hank, asked me what I did for a living and where I was from, his fatherly instincts showing as he worried for his beloved little child. I plucked up the guts to speak to Mr. Carter. I would like to seek your blessing and ask for your daughter's hand in marriage. Sylvia was taken aback by my declaration and looked at me with surprise and tears in her eyes. She was taken aback by my statement because we didn't talk about it. I said, even though we haven't been together for very long, our love is strong, and I think we can grow together in our marriage. Charlie, I appreciate what you did even if you didn't need to ask me about it. You should realize by now that Sylvia always does what she feels like doing. Do you really love Charlie, Sylvia? Asked her dad. Yes, I do adore my father. He captured my entire heart, she said with excitement. If so, you have my whole support. But in order for your mother and I to properly give you away, I do ask that you 2 get married here in Kentucky. To the amazement of everyone, her father also kindly volunteered to cover the wedding expenditures. I was so happy that I pulled an engagement ring out of my pocket. I begged Sylvia to marry me while on my knees. Joyously, she accepted, kissing me on the lips before running to her father and embracing her tearful mother. After that, we all got up and had a delicious meal of chicken. We vowed to update the Carters on our future plans as we said our goodbyes. There was a lot of excitement as we returned to my parents' house. When my parents learned that we were engaged, they were overjoyed. As soon as word got out, my relatives who were still living nearby enthusiastically came together for a happy BBQ celebration. My father proudly declared himself the Grill King. My mother smiled as she vanished inside to cook the steak and other delectable meals. With a reference to her love of cooking, Sylvia graciously offered to help and joined her in the kitchen. In the meantime, our family members began to show up one by one, excited to congratulate us and meet Sylvia. I brought her to my family for the first time, and they immediately agreed that she was a wonderful person who was worth keeping. Everyone urged me to treasure and maintain Sylvia's happiness as the day went on and the celebration reached its climax. We promised our families as we said goodbye that we would notify them as soon as possible of our wedding date. Sylvia told me in a whisper before she went to bed that my mother had told her to be careful around the things on the staircase. She unintentionally kicked a pair of shoes that fell down the stairs as she returned upstairs. Even though she tried to apologize, my mother reminded her that she was just as awkward as Sylvia and that she was also young once. She has a lot of kids now, most likely as a result. When Sylvia came back downstairs later that evening, we had a sweet and private moment together while doing our best to hide our passion. Only after 5 in the morning, after we had whispered our love to her, did she come back upstairs. After a filling country breakfast, we bid everyone farewell with kisses and hugs before heading home. Sylvia had her scheduled meeting with our Human Resources Department on Monday. Mary called her the following day to let her know that she had landed the position and could now give her 2-week notice. Sylvia called me eager to tell me about her triumph, but to her astonishment, I already knew. We decided to celebrate by dining at my favorite country pub that night, where we both enjoyed delectable steak dinners. Over dinner, Sylvia informed us that Matt and Jen were on vacation right now and would be taking a plane to Las Vegas the next week to get married. She talked about how the last 2 weeks at the plant had been one of the nicest times she had ever had at work because Matt and Jen weren't pestering her all the time. She claimed that everyone simply expressed their regret for her departure and acknowledged that she was leaving to take a better lucrative position. Without a doubt, Ford had the highest paying jobs in the area. She was fortunate to get an interview there, but she deserved it. It's interesting to note that before leaving, she never told anyone she was dating or engaged. On Matt's desk, she said, she left an anonymous message. The note, which alluded to his wife's regular lunches with her employer, suggested that he think about doing a DNA test after the kid was born. Strangely, she did not sign the note, so he was left to wonder if it was real. When she first began working at our factory, she always had a bright smile on her face when interested guys came up to her. Declaring Charlie to be her loyal fiancé, she proudly showed him her engagement ring. Joan was instrumental in helping with the wedding planning as she got ready for her impending marriage. Joan's mother hen-like nurturing style was perhaps informed by her own married daughter, with whom she often spent time. I felt compelled to arrange for our family's attendance at the wedding, so I would go to their house a few times a week and provide my help wherever I could. I asked my mother for a comprehensive list of acquaintances and family members who could be invited. To my astonishment, my mother went above and beyond by buying invitations and proactively completing them for us. Sylvia also called her mother and told her about the important event, including the wedding date, which was set for 4 months from now. Her parents also enthusiastically took on the responsibility of locating a suitable church and a large space for the reception. Furthermore, her mother promised that she would handle inviting their family members. Her father was a prosperous businessman with a wide range of clients and associates. In the meantime, I was a complete nerd and didn't do much to help with the wedding planning. I tentatively asked a few coworkers if they would be interested in going. I told them that Kentucky would be the location of our wedding. I was surprised to learn that several of them claimed they would definitely attend. Luckily, Joan was able to locate a talented dressmaker for Sylvia thanks to her connections at a retail establishment. Joan herself, as well as her daughter, enthusiastically confirmed that they will be there. Sylvia's mom, Sophie, contacted us to let us know that she had hired a caterer for the wedding but would require a head count closer to the big day. In addition, she said her husband had found a band with ability. It seemed as though everything was coming together. I asked Sylvia if she thought we were going too far because I was worried about the rising expenses. Our finances will be severely impacted by this lavish wedding, I said. Charlie, Sylvia soothed me, this lavish wedding is my parents' complete vision. They have dreamed about this since we were little girls. I promise that my sisters will enjoy an equally extravagant celebration. Why did you never tell me about your wealthy upbringing? I asked. Because I wanted my true self, not my wealth, to pique your curiosity. She answered honestly. Just so you know, Joan is the only person I have told about this, not even Matt. Have you noticed any changes as a result? No, I told her. The only thing that draws me to you is who you are. Charlie, I'm willing to sign a prenuptial agreement if it gives you more security. A prenuptial agreement won't be required. Our relationship will last a lifetime. I firmly believe that, she said. In addition, I do not currently possess a great deal of wealth. Possibly I will in the future through inheritance, but not yet. My husband will provide for me. Everything Sylvia needed for her wedding party was planned. Her older sister would serve as her maid of honor, and her father would proudly accompany her down the aisle. As a bridesmaid, her other sister would accompany her. My 2 married sisters were graciously invited by Sylvia to serve as bridesmaids as well. On my side, the groomsmen would be my 2 unmarried brothers and my sister's spouse. Having my younger brother serve as best man seemed appropriate. My niece and nephew gladly accepted the roles of ring bearer and flower girl to add a little sweetness. Fortunately, they all gladly accepted when we reached out to them. Having such a supportive and close-knit family was a real blessing. Sylvia became a well-liked team member very fast and loved her new position. It was difficult not to love her, but a minor worry surfaced. She had just been working for 4 months and had not yet collected any vacation time. We came up with a solution after brainstorming. We could go down on Friday night, get married on Saturday, and come back on Sunday. Although it would be a hectic event, we believed that, in light of the situation, it was our best course of action. The plant manager unexpectedly asked me to meet in his office 2 weeks prior to the wedding. I wasn't overly nervous because we got along well. He surprised me by telling me he would be at our wedding. "Charlie, I've heard that you're in a difficult situation the week before your wedding." Mark spoke to me. "You were going down on Friday, getting married, and coming back on Sunday," Mary said. "Is that correct?" I confirmed that's the plan, Mark. "There are no vacation days available for Sylvia. You can tell your beautiful wife that we have a solution for her, Charlie." Mark smiled kindly in response. "Her personal time off is being granted from Thursday through the following week. Here are also 2 tickets for a 4-day cruise that can be used as a honeymoon retreat." "Ungrateful, Mark. Sylvia is going to be overjoyed." I smiled and gave him a firm handshake in appreciation. I excused myself and went to the office where Sylvia worked. I mentioned that I had something essential to communicate with her at the restaurant when I called her in for a lunch break. "What is it, Charlie?" Sylvia said, her eyes full of curiosity. "What can I learn from you?" Mark called me into his office and he had some incredible news for us, I said, taking a deep breath. "They have given you personal time off from Thursday through the entire next week," he told me. "We have nowhere to rush now. There's more, though." He also gave us 2 4-day cruise tickets as a wedding gift. Gently, I set the tickets on the table. She was crying joyfully. We were relieved that we could fly on Thursday, which made things easier for us, and all of the wedding arrangements had been completed. We had the rehearsal the next day, and we celebrated with dinner afterwards. Later, I went to my father and asked him if he needed any financial help, but he told me he had already taken care of it. I had a great deal of respect and admiration for him ever since we were engaged. I gave Sylvia a gentle farewell kiss as the evening drew to a close and made a commitment to see her the next day. She had told her mother how many people were coming to the wedding and reception. She wouldn't give any information, saying I was already nervous. I knew all my siblings would be there, as well as their families, aunts, and uncles. In addition, I had heard that both counties' lodgings had been completely booked for months. I hoped our visitors were able to find lodging. I realized that I couldn't go through the entire day on an empty, anxious stomach, so my mother urged me to eat when I woke up on Saturday morning. While eating breakfast, we talked. Mom said that they had met the Carters and thought they were really nice people who really liked me. I spent a lot of time shaving and washing in the shower after breakfast. I put on my rented white tuxedo with care, picking it out to go with Sylvia's attire. They were also my brothers, in their dapper black tuxedos. Each of the 4 played a significant part in the wedding party. It was time to head to the church, which was only 20 miles away in the nearby county. The church itself was enormous. According to my brother, it could hold more than 600 people. My brothers and I took on the duty of seating the visitors when they started to arrive. Some people suggested that I didn't have to help, but I said that I wanted to help somehow. When Joan and her daughter finally showed there, I led them to their seats among Sylvia's relatives. I was pleasantly surprised to discover that I was seated next to relatives I hadn't seen in a long time. Watching some of my coworkers, including my boss Mark and his wife, who traveled in for the event, was heartwarming. I went to the church door as soon as I was told that Sylvia's limo had arrived. I loved the chance to connect with my parents, so I took a moment to speak with them briefly before the ceremony started. A woman played some melodies with skill, and the sound of the organ's serene notes filled the room. The wedding was about to start when someone said that everyone should take their seats. Every wedding has its own special features, and in this one, I was standing in front of the minister, getting ready to walk down the aisle with Sandy and my brother. As they assumed their positions in front, they looked like a stunning couple, radiating grace and elegance. Marie came behind them, accompanied by my other unmarried brother, and she was a beautiful sight. Not long afterward, my married brothers came in with their spouses. As I kept the real wedding ring safely in my pocket, a little nephew walked down the aisle as the cutest ring bearer. The scene changed when 2 people spread out a white sheet of fabric, preparing the way for my niece to go down the aisle with a beautiful scattering of rose petals. Everyone in the room stood up when the music changed, generating a sense of excitement and anticipation. Sylvia walked down the aisle with dignity as the wedding march started. She clasped her proud father's arm. She resembled an angel in every way and was a marvel of beauty. My eyes filled with tears, which poured freely down my cheeks. "Who gives this woman to this man?" was the somber question that filled the air as the officiant's voice spoke. In response, Sylvia's proud father said, "Her mother and I." After exchanging sincere vows, her father and I sealed our commitment by exchanging rings. I was allowed to kiss my darling bride as soon as I put the ring on her finger. I was really ecstatic that I'd done so. I now introduced Mr. and Mrs. Charles Jones to everyone. Everyone in the church stood up and cheered and applauded. We joined the rest of the wedding party as we left the church doors hand in hand. The entire church was cleared out in over half an hour. After the visitors left, they headed to the hall that was booked, where the festivities went on. Everyone was welcomed with delicious appetizers and a variety of refreshing drinks when they arrived. The atmosphere for a fun-filled evening was already created by a live band. The tables were tastefully set, anticipating the arrival of the newlyweds and the rest of the party, even if the dance floor was still largely deserted for the time being. The assembled crowd exploded in cheers and clapping as we entered the hall. After we had taken our assigned places, the MC, Mr. Carter, stood up and said a few moving words before declaring that the eagerly awaited feast was ready to be consumed. To ensure that everyone could be served quickly, the serving tables were carefully placed on either side. Despite being among the first to be served, Sylvia and I may have been the last to finish since we were too busy sneaking kisses amid the happy clinking of glasses. Some of the tables were pushed back from the dance floor to make more room for dancing. Ecstatic, Sylvia and I were the first to show up on the dance floor, then the rest of the bridal party, and finally everyone joined in the fun. For a lovely 4 hours, the reception went on, and some attendees even indulged in a second round of delicious food. With lots of love, laughter, and treasured memories, it was a night to remember. Our wedding trip was a complete joy, full with treasured memories and moments that will never be forgotten. Luckily, we had made the smart choice to attend the wedding in my truck. We carefully packed all of the kind presents we get from our loved ones into a tiny U-Haul that we rented. After we got back home, we started looking for a new location to call home. We found a beautiful 3-bedroom house with an opulent hot tub after a thorough house search. We temporarily stayed at my comfortable apartment while we worked out the specifics. Given the big number of gifts we had brought back, Sylvia mentioned the need for a slightly larger room. Since we wouldn't be living there permanently, Joan kindly volunteered to store the gifts at her home. She told us she had no financial worries when we asked if she would be able to handle things on her own. Taking care of Sylvia was her main motivation. But now that I was a part of Sylvia's life, that duty fell on me. To show our loved ones how much we appreciate them, we took the time to write a ton of thank you notes. After expressing our sincere gratitude to everyone who has helped us, I think we are almost done with this duty. About 3 times a week, we make it a point to eat lunch together at work. 3 months have passed since our wedding, and I'm happy to report that everything is going incredibly well. We have developed a cordial relationship in which disagreements are infrequent and are always discussed and settled. One of Sylvia's acquaintances from her previous employment called her recently and provided some intriguing information. Jenny apparently learned that Matt is struggling financially and has a lot of debt. Additionally, Matt was told anonymously that once Jenny has child, he might want to think about getting a DNA test. This letter's origin is still unknown. After a few weeks, Sylvia got another call with shocking information on Matt and Jen's relationship. Matt had apparently taken the initiative to get tested for DNA, only to find out that he wasn't the real father. It is very amazing, isn't it? My comment: Matt and Jen's lives have taken a turbulent turn, but I believe that these two traitors are to blame for everything.